This is sort of in the theme we've had for a couple weeks now, of starting a new year and starting a new life. You know, I don't look at the year as being the year. That's kind of linear. It's more like I look for the deeper symbolism of everything if I can, without overanalyzing things, just remaining open to the deeper meaning of things. And that's the way we all really need to learn to live, because it's really our bridge home. We'll never get to the place where we know all until we learn to see the depth of what we start with. So if we just stay real linear and real dry in our understanding of things, that could mean intellectually dry, but also faithfully speaking, just dried up. We have to learn there's deeper significance to things. I mean, just like right now, we have an eclipse. And the eclipse is in Capricorn, and that all marks even more so, plus the time of year. That, it's like, here we go, a new life. We just latch onto these things, grab the comet by the tail and ride it. Like, let's go. This is what's happening, why not? And in times of challenge, if there's deaths or the end of a year or leaves are falling from the tree in the fall, I mean, let's just do it. Why resist things? This is what's happening. And it's like Jesus himself. Here the wisest of, the word wisdom is not even worth using when you're talking about somebody who's one with God. But this person is awakened. Still, when he walks into Bethany, where Lazarus and his sisters live, Mary and Martha and so on, when he walks into Bethany, he's passed away. Lazarus has passed away. And the sisters, they sent word, if you get here in time, we know, you can cure him. And Jesus figures, we'll wait an extra couple days. Let him die so that something cool can happen. He must have been difficult to deal with at times. But anyway, that's even now. He doesn't always answer when you want him to. So, Lazarus dies. He shows up and they hear he's coming. So they run out to meet him on the road and they're crying. First, the one sister, Martha, runs out. If you had been here, crying, and he just kind of, he stops for a moment, continues walking. Then by that time, Mary gets to him. Master, had you been here, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, crying. And the Bible describes him becoming kind of overwhelmed for a moment. He chokes up. Now, why would he choke up? Is he like, oh, you're kidding? I didn't know the guy was sick or dying. You don't think he's a little psychic? He must have known that for sure. And it's not he's crying, oh, I guess that's it. If he died, let's cry because there's no hope. There's no reason that Jesus would cry other than that's what was happening in the moment. He's crying because he could feel what they were feeling. It doesn't mean he doesn't know better, but he also allowed the feeling. People have this impression that Jesus was supposed to have, or that he did, float above it all. Well, then what kind of an example would he be? You guys can really get it if you are completely detached from the world like me, so I don't even recognize the world and I'm just out of here. Even Course in Miracles teachers, some of the finest of them, have taught it was impossible for Jesus to have felt pain ever, even on the crucifix. I understand their point, which is pain is of the ego self, and if he wasn't in his ego, he couldn't have felt pain. These are the masters and teachers of the Course, they're actually missing an essential point. He allowed himself to feel all things of the ego and be able to say no to them. He didn't not feel them. Hey guys, listen, if you just weren't tempted, there would be no problem. So try and die and come back like I did. And just not be tempted. That's not what he did. It's despite it all. He had to have experienced everything. And I don't mean linearly, like he had to experience every food and every drink. I'm not saying exactly. I'm saying the general concepts. Fear, sadness, or whatever it happens to have been. If it weren't true, why did he have blood pouring through his pores, due to capillaries bursting in his head? During the dark night, his dark moment in the Garden of Gethsemane. Is he like faking it? Let me put on an act that I'm anxious right now because I'm completely numb to it all. No. He worried and he was sad, so here he cries. He chokes up with the folks that are crying because he felt like, wow, He feels it, but he's teaching you and I. Just because you feel angry, sad, you're going to feel those things. But if only I didn't, man, I would be really spiritual. No, you just be repressed. That's all. You just be repressed, and we've done that. It's called religion. You know, we've... Okay. I don't mean that like as a dig. I'm saying literally, religion of old taught us. Stuff your feelings, or else you're a sinner. Don't look at another person. Don't look, particularly, don't look at women, they're telling the priest. That's naughty. And if you do, blame them and then kill them. Burn them at the stake. I mean, if that's not a little messed up, what is? You can't repress it. So Christ consciousness, not religions, Christ consciousness teaches us, and all the religions did that bit of repressing. They really did, all of them. Whether it's Eastern, Western, there's a bit of that going on. Christ consciousness is saying that still harms you. Do you realize when you repress your feelings, you're going to have things like either anxieties, psychosis, neurotic behaviors, and consciousness? He's telling, it's telling us your psychological issues are partly caused from repressing yourself. Don't overly vent, don't overly repress. Practice chilling and looking at yourself. Wow. And then say, what's that? Where's that coming from? Look at things objectively and then realize I have the power to decide. Where's this feeling coming from right now? Well, it's a reaction to something they said. And why does that bother you? See, don't react. Show them how amazingly centered you are. Because you're not centered when you do that. You're flat. You're not vertically centered, you're horizontally flattened. No emotions allowed. Look at me. I'm doing great. I'm so spiritual. And your teeth have ground down to powder. But, so instead, wow, you're encouraged to see it. It could be the most obscene, gross thoughts for human beings. To be able to sit and go, wow, what is that? I'm feeling, I don't want to say it, but wait, let me go ahead. I'm feeling anger, rage. Not rage. Yeah, rage. Wow. Where's that coming from? And sit with it and talk about it into yourself. Where's that coming from? Acknowledge where it is. It's coming from, they triggered me because they said, but why does that bother me? Because that reminds me of tracking it, kind of looking inside, and being able to say, and at the end of the day, the outcome of this rage would be what? Well, I can prove that I'm right. And would I feel peace? I'm allowed to be right. I'm allowed to rage. I'm allowed to vent and shout and hate people. But I have to just acknowledge, and I could also feel peace. Wouldn't that be interesting to feel peace no matter what people say? See, what you're doing is all that you would ever have wanted Jesus to do for you or Buddha to do for you or whomever, Mother Mary or whomever. You're finding peace because you sat with it. And acknowledged what you were feeling, looked what was behind it, and then made an intelligent decision. This is the one that I'm choosing because it feels right for me. And you're allowed to say, well, the other one doesn't feel quite peacefully right, but I'm going to do it anyway. That's called being naughty. Go ahead. No big deal. It'll bring karma with it, but don't not do it because you're afraid of karma. If you're going to do it, just own it and say, well, this is where I'm going. Today, I'm wanting to really talk about this because it's called living one day at a time. One day at a time. Yeah, but yesterday, one day at a time. I've said this many times that human beings do a lot of recovery programs. And we think, anybody in recovery, and a few hands come up, oh, they're the messed up ones, the ones that are over there in recovery. Worse than them are the ones that aren't in recovery and should be. But what we don't understand is there's no who's messed up. Everybody is demented and messed up on planet Earth. I don't care who you are. You could be Buddha. Why are you back, man? What happened? What happened, dude? Did you get to the other side and then blow it again? Why are you back? We're all in this together. We're all equals. We look a little further along. I get that. Some of us further along than others. But at the end of the day, there's only one of us. How are we doing? Not I'm doing better than them. There is no I in them. If somebody's off track, they're reflecting parts of me that are off. So my love and forgiveness of them forgives that particle in me. Now more of more of me. There's this more and more of the me is growing into the we and then the oneness with God. And it's a beautiful thing if you think about it. People keep thinking about ascending. Which ones are going to get to ascend? The Christians will call it rapture. The New Agers will call it ascension. But it's all the same. You can't ascend away from yourself. You don't. It doesn't work that way. You don't go, well, can't wait till I get to the fifth dimension. Then I won't be messed up. You are first not messed up and then you ascend to the fifth dimension. You can't go there and sneak your baggage off, under a tree and ascend. No, nobody will notice. It doesn't work. When I'm so light and I don't carry my baggage, issues, karma, unhealed wounds, and I'm untethered to that, I just naturally float up into higher consciousness. I mean, it is effortless. And mind you, there's nothing wrong when I said that if you're here, you're messed up. You can be a saint and still come back to help the human race. That's true. But generally, it's safer to think you're one of the messed up ones instead of that you're one of the few saints. Why? Because if you think you're one of the saints and you don't have anything to work on, you might miss something. If you own that you might be one of the humans that still have something to work on, you have nothing to lose. I mean, just call me silly, call me playing it safe, but I think it's a better route to go. Plus, it's humble. We're all in this together. And so when we heal, every relationship we heal, we are ascending. Forgiveness is really the key, but not the traditional type of forgiveness where okay, fine, that attitude, It's actually understanding that I love you. Even the disturbed parts, I'm not loving your disturbed parts. That's denial again. Okay, I really love that you're constantly insensitive and cruel. Love you. You're not asked to lie to yourself. You can sit, and you're allowed in the secret chambers of your meditation and prayer to go, oh my God, God, are you seeing this person? They're nuts. They're hurtful. Narcissism. God, you look in the encyclopedia, and I swear, the Akashic Encyclopedia, you're going to see their photo there. They're totally messed up. And you're allowed to say all those gruesome things. You can say words that New Agers hate saying, like, I hate them. Oh, scream in a pillow. That's allowed because that's how I feel. But is that the real me? No, fine. I know. That was just the human part of me venting. And then Spirit says, and would you like to remain the human part of you? Just for a few more minutes. I'll even time it, God. Just give me 2 more. Get a pillow, scream, cuss, let it all out. Okay, I feel better now. Not because my judgments of that person are real or righteous. I just needed the ego human self out of the way, and that's how I chose to do it today. One day, that won't even be there in me. And I won't even be able to see it in you. That's just not today. So today, if I need to really be that human, you're better off owning what you feel, venting it in a healthy, safe way. I don't mean on a person. Healthy, safe way, and then acknowledging, but that's not the real me. And what I just said about that person is not the real them. That was my ego venting on their ego. And thank God that neither of that, mine or theirs, is real. Which means I'm now going to affirm their goodness from my goodness. Because despite what I just said about them, I affirm that there's goodness in me that can see beyond that. And I affirm that in them there's a goodness beyond the things I just said about them. You see what I'm doing? Allow. That's how I feel today. Live a day at a time. And all these times we talk about, people in recovery or not in recovery, all human beings, I've said it so many times, we need to understand that we all need to be in a recovery program called Recovery from Earth, 12 steps from Earth, because we need to acknowledge we need a higher power. We have a problem and we need a higher power to heal it. There are lots of people, I mean, well-meaning people that do things like, let's all sing, lighters. Imagine there's no heaven, and everybody just, the song Imagine. It's beautiful, sentiments, but at the end of the day, you and I having our own go at this, trying to fix the world. If only there were no war. If only, all of the if only still do not take you home. So we can't actually fix ourselves by getting the world to be a better place. We have to make ourselves a better person, and the world will just reflect it. But you can't try to hope you can vote the right person in that's going to fix everything. You can't. It doesn't work. You can't hope to, if only the economy were better, everything would be great. This is the condition. There's layers of ego in our consciousness reflected in our world. And so we cannot we can't even just make or imagine the world a better place than it is. We have to reach a state of complete bliss, understanding, God first, and forgiveness for all that seems unlike God. And the world will reflect that. And it's not an accident that people don't go that route. It's not an accident that people still try to, manufacture worlds out there that are better. I mean, people send these memes occasionally and, if only we smiled once a day, the whole world will change. If only we could smile more often is what the real issue is. Why can't we smile? Let's find out and heal that, then you'll smile. Don't force a smile and expect it to change the world. Nothing wrong with random acts of kindness and smiles. Do it. But let it be an inside job. And stop telling everybody else to do it. If only we were all vegans. Tasteless. No. Oh. Just kidding. No, if only everybody was, and then there's another one. The vegans wish this, the meat eaters wish that. But there's another one. Some people will just say, you know what? What we need is diversity. We need to allow the meat eaters to be meat eaters and the vegans to be... So you're still trying to actually make a better world by wishing, hoping, or even commanding that we allow diversity. See, as soon as you think that races all need equality, you actually still think there's races that aren't equal needing equality. So you're still affirming a problem without realizing it, but you sound good. You sound like you're with it because you're doing the status quo. That's what's acceptable today. No. There's a point where you're like a child that doesn't even notice colors. A child won't notice the genders, young enough before the programming. It's true. And we're allowed to be back to that place, back to our state of really like an innocence. When I was a kid growing up, I never really noticed, and fortunately I manifested too. The school I went to, we didn't really have that. We didn't have groups pulling into their color. There's a little bit of it. We just teased them and laughed about it because it's like you live next door. Don't act like you're all poverty or something. We're all wealthy in this area. It's a middle upper class kind of place. It's like, come on. People try to later on act punk rock. What are you all punkish about? Your parents are wealthy. What are you against you go home and you ask for things, right? Come on. So it's like it was bogus. We could see that we're all in this together. Whether it was this race or that, we all hung out together. You see, it was all kind of easy. It was blended. And we called each other names that today would never be acceptable in terms of racial stuff. We all called each other those things. Whether we were that or not, it didn't matter. I didn't go, no, wait a minute. I'm this or that and I'm offended. We were such in loving friendship and trust that none of it mattered. You see? And that's closer to an example of what we can aspire to, getting away from all the wishing and hoping and forcing the world to be different, because it has to happen on the inside. Now, we're starting a new year. A day at a time, a day at a time. So my suggestion is, and you've often heard me say, the old you, try to imagine that, when we talk about the new life, the new you, try to imagine like being a child, like the new year baby. And then remember, in the coming year, only allow things to happen to you that you would wish for a child. If you feel that you would wish, you really believe that there's a certain diet that you would wish upon a child you care for, not one you want to enforce on them or force upon them, one that feels right because you love the kid, that's probably the diet for you. Now, don't go and tell everybody else how bad they are for not eating your baby's diet. Just enjoy. Surely you can tell people about how good it is. If people say, God, how do you get such beautiful hair? Or how does your skin say? Well, for me, what I do is talk about you and what your life, your diet, your lifestyle, meditation, what it does for you. Don't tell them they have to do it. Be it and be an example. They'll come to you, just like about consciousness. You at work, we're always conflicted, and you always seem to be a little more together. How do you do that? Then you check in. How much do they really want to know? And then share. When they want a little more, share a little more. You don't mow people over. You don't plow them over with your stuff. Just share. And it should be really happy. It should be really peaceful. It should come from a place of excitement, but measured doses to where it doesn't turn people off to God or healthiness. So with the new child, the new year is a baby. But what about the old? What do we do with last year and our old life? If you're going to be born again, we all have to be born again. Going into recovery is a form of being a born again person. They don't call it born again Christianity per se, but everybody can be born again. Whether you're even an atheist can be born again in the sense that I want to release the old and step into a new life. They may not call God yet God. They may call it life, love, healthier, happier. And that's where they're at for now. But the past, if the new life is a child, the past picture as being an elder. An elder who approaches you. Hi, I'm your past. We can maybe do this in the meditation. I don't know. We'll see what happens. But I'm your past. And that elder needs to be not told, hi, I hear you're a past. I hear you're the past, my past. I hear you have a lot of years behind you. Boy, I bet they're all just regret. That's not what you would tell a senior or should tell a senior. What have you learned? Can you tell me any wisdom? Let's approach our past, even if the past has had regrets. Don't program that elder that comes to you with the shame. Say instead, by the way, what did you get from that? What did you learn from that? Approach it. Kiss it on the forehead and thank it for all that it's been through, because it's you. Not taking any shames or regrets or blames or, hurts. That's not what we would program. We wouldn't program a new life for a child to be unhealthy decisions, and we shouldn't do the same with the elder within ourselves. You can be just 20 and there's still an elder. There's an elder in this life because you're 20, you still have experiences, but there's an elder also that's had many lifetimes. So we can say to ourselves, what makes you so tired? Days you get up and you look in the mirror and it's just like, and you can just see that. Then say to yourself, like it's an elder, are you okay? Can I help you across the street kind of a thing? Are you okay? What's going on? Why are you feeling so tired? Would you like me to help hold you up today? Could you use anything? Gentle, man. Would you like some tea? Talk to the past with gentleness and talk to the future self with all the same love and gentleness. If folks have a problem with you creating a new life, I would say walk away. You need to birth a new life. That's sanity. I was insane, meaning I was caught up in the insanity of life. Everything pressure and everything anxious and fighting to be right and people dissing me. Wait, I'm not saying divorce everybody. I'm saying work with the ones you can and walk away with the ones you can't. Change what you can and accept what you can't. Acceptance is a beautiful tool because acceptance means, well, this one isn't changing yet, but I'm going to hang in there. That's one form of acceptance. Another one is, I feel like I've done everything I can. It's still not working. Some even get more agitated at my attempts. I better say goodbye. The ego is going to try to wrong any decision you make. So you have to kind of go beyond that heady stuff to what feels right in here. I'm not talking about spoiling or enabling the ego self, as long as I get what I want, because eventually you'll divorce everybody. because somebody's eventually going to do something you don't like. Oh, you're out. You got to hang in there, but change what you can. I'm going to hang in there because I think we can find peace. But if I feel like it's just increasing agitation, oh man, what a bummer. You sit, self-talk, and then find a way to tactfully, lovingly say goodbye. Sometimes it's what has to be. We will find that recycling, saying goodbye to things, they will get recycled. A lot of people don't realize that. It'll get recycled. You had a dream you were going to create an album. You're a musician. You're going to create a CD, and all that. And it's been going on for years and you never did. Instead of constantly wishing you could, if it were me, oh man, I'm getting to that point. I'm sad about it. I'm frustrated. I would eventually do a ritual and say goodbye to it. No way, I'm a musician. I want to, but you haven't. And it actually is pushing myself in a good way. Michael, I'll tell you what. I know you don't want to say goodbye to releasing that musical CD that you know is going to go to #1, right? Nobody thinks that, and yours is unique. So I know that. Tell you what, and I know you don't want to release it, so we'll compromise. You have until the end of the month. Oh, well, that's too much pressure. Okay, 2 months. I'll give 2 months. But you have to agree that if at that time you haven't done it, Michael, come on. Let's own it's probably not going to happen. But it could have. I know. And if I did, it would have. I know. It would have been such a big seller. Steven Spielberg would have used it as a soundtrack for something. Something. Possibly a horror movie. We don't know. But something, so I know. Now, are you done? Yeah, I just wanted to say that I believed it was going to be a hit. I know. Now will you accept that you didn't do it? You have a month or whatever, and then let it go. All right. It seems so hard, but I got to tell you, it's so amazing. Because what it does for me is it either gets me to go and do it, and now I've got the motivation, or, especially when you're like, there's the file, and I'm going to shred it. That's always cool to add those little extra, to get the self to go, no, that's my baby. And then you go and record it. Great. You needed motivation. Good. Or you'll say, I didn't do it. And I don't like that I'm going to let it go. Back to scream in a pillow if you have to. Then let it go. Because when you let go of things like that had some energy into them, where's the energy going to go? It's going to come back to you if you let yourself remain open. Of course, if you go into a pity party, you're shutting the doors on new inspiration. But if you really understand how the universe works, release, the relationships and whatever it is out there, let them go. Human beings just don't understand the power. Stay with what's realistic, not just your dreams and fantasies. And I know motivational people will talk to you about, hold on to your dreams and fantasies. It's not to say those because you have visions of things. That's fine. I'm talking about fantasies that are not so. There are people that some folks wish and hang on to, if only. I've known best friends that had crushes on celebrities that they will never meet. But one day, I think we're supposed to be together. Oh, you're kidding me. But Paul Newman's married. I don't think he's interested in you. And by the way, he's dead. You might want to let it go, but if only. Now, but there's a really disturbed factor here that I'm going to get to in a sec. The spiritual leaders and the authors and the healers and there's transference and there's people wishing and if only and that sort of thing. But what most people aren't going to be honest enough to recognize is that when you have a fantasy for a project, even the eventual release of your musical CD, or if only that person knew because I'm in love with them, you're actually using someone or something that is unavailable, and you're using it to distance yourself from having anything real. Now soak that in. You will wish for something as a way of sabotaging everything. So sit with that. Yeah. Bet you wish you didn't come here today, huh? It's a form of obsessing, but we're actually using that person or thing to distance ourselves from everything else. Jesus talks about this in A Course in Miracles. He says, therapy is a good thing, wanting to help people heal, psychotherapy or any form of therapy. But he does say in there, to the therapists who are channeling A Course in Miracles, he says, therapists actually will look like they're trying to help. They'll even have a committee reviewing one of the clients in a hospital. So here's case number such and such. What did you learn? And they'll sit and he says, talk about the person. And every bit of their talking and analysis of the client are the professional's way of distancing them. So that I'm the healthy one and you're the sick one. So that I never have to look at my own sickness. And I say that to our chaplains as well. We have chaplain circles, people come in for healing, or we take turns with working on each other. But we're never supposed to actually think we're the right ones, healthy ones, sane ones, or whatever, and that's the problematic one. If you forget that we're all in this together, you can't help anybody heal at all. Because we're in this together consciousness, we're connecting with each other. In connection, there's no separation. If there's no separation, there will be no sickness. That's why the Ho'oponopono, Hawaiian prayer forgiveness technique, was so successful by the person that kind of reintroduced it to the world, a physician that worked, in a clinical environment with mentally ill people. Everybody was clinically diagnosing or analyzing the people. He saw that doesn't work. He would do a prayer where he acknowledges that we're in this together. Your sickness is reflecting something in me. I welcome it. I pull it into myself. I surrender it, forgive it, and bless you with the consciousness I now have of holiness. And people were healing from incurable mental illness. Okay? They were criminally insane, some of them, and they were healing. And that's the simple but not easy type of technique at times. Transference. We have to be honest about these things. Wow, I'm distancing. And some of us, it's obvious. My mother, didn't love me or she passed away, so I don't know how to trust females now. That's kind of an obvious one. But there's a lot that don't appear as obvious as that. So we have to watch for our patterns. If you have authority figures in your life wishing they weren't there, you're actually pushing away authority so you don't heal with authority issues. It's okay. If sometimes they're overwhelming, you do have to get away from it to be able to breathe in order to heal. But heal what you can while you're in it. Then if you have to distance yourself, do so and do some more healing. Is that making sense? It's an interesting thing because we can create a new life and it can have anything. And I've seen people, even intimate friends and so forth in life, people, because I'm a spiritual teacher, people will do that with me at times, a little bit of the transference or the whatever. But even my closest friends, I have said to them, listen, I'm going to be honest. This is how I am, my life. I'm going to let you know that I'm praying that you meet somebody that can be those things that you'd like to find in me. And they're kind of like hurt sometimes in my life. I've had a couple of times like that where they were kind of hurt, but I want it to be, but it isn't me. I'm like the absolute worst date you could ever imagine. I'm dedicated to my work, so just, if you want to partner with me, great. There'll be a plaque over the door, work comes first. How do you feel? So you need somebody that wants to be with you and you're the most important thing. That's what you should get. It wouldn't be me. So I'm really honest. I never even go to restaurants. If I do, there's one type. Tortillas, cheese, butter. That's me. That's it. So there's no fine dining. And if for some reason I wanted to spoil you and fine dine you, I'm going to just sit there drinking water while you fine dine. There's nothing that's fine about your dining for me. So I'm just saying, I'm not a pleasant type like that. I'm really boring. And I'm not saying that like to be self-deprecating or something. I'm just saying that's me. See, I'm good with that. I'm not going to wish I'm very clear. Like, that wouldn't be me, so it would be important for you. And I learned how they'll cling because they're afraid of looking for the real thing. So I and you, we have to resign things in our lives that aren't going to happen. You have to resign that this is a certain type you are, and you're not open to this or that if that's where you're at. Now, mind you, if you're in denial, if I'm just like intimately challenged and I don't want a relationship because I don't want to have partnership because I'm afraid of it, I need to look at that. But get to know yourself. What are you about? Don't make yourself be with somebody and watch movies they love when you don't love those movies. This is what I'm about. Is that okay? Oh, no, man. I'm a movie person. If you're not into movies, I'm glad you told me, because I need a movie person. But people don't want to be honest because it could lose something they think they need to keep on the hook. Just let things go. Just, find peace. Retire things. Take time. I've talked about this last week, but resign. Honesty. Back in the time of Jesus, they would actually take prostitutes caught in the act or caught anywhere resembling the act and stone them to death. And that was legal. That was actually the law. You just stoned human beings to death. There's not a lot of ways that you could say are more horrid than that. It's horrible. You're just hitting people with rock. Seriously? To death. And for what? Well, they were prostitutes. They were honest about what they did. The people that were throwing rocks were the people sleeping with them. So who was honest, the prostitutes or the priests? Think about it. And they bring to Jesus a couple of different times, 2 or 3 different times, because it was a common problem, meaning the stoning thing. And they said, Rabbi, because they looked to see if he's going to stay with the Judean laws, Mosaic laws, and so they're like, okay, test him. Hey, Rabbi, this woman, she was caught in adultery. What do you think? And he's up creek. Because if he says, let her go, they're going to say, aha, he broke our rules. That's not allowed. If he says, stone her, they're going to be happy because he's going along with their thing. And Jesus isn't going to go along with what other people think and want. He's going to be honest, but love his tact, because he doesn't just tell the truth, he throws in a lesson with it. He doesn't say, let her go, because that's what they're looking for, so they have a reason to kill him. He just says, gosh, you're right. That naughty girl. Can you believe I think that anybody who hasn't done the same thing should stand up right now and throw a rock. And he's testing them. He's being facetious, and he's testing them because he knows dang well that they're all guilty. Not one stoning happened. Not one in his presence. Because the truth just cuts through things. So we have to learn to be honest. We have to learn to be clear. Who's really honest here? Well, I'm being honest. I'm open to a relationship. Make sure you know all your parts. Make sure you know what you're really looking for. That you're not just going from a compulsion to nest, a compulsion to partner, a compulsion to just want a warm body. Get a dog, Don't use people if all you want is a thing from them. I just don't want to eat alone. Get a blow-up doll. Just set her up against the, and now you have somebody to have dinner with. Don't use people in such ignorant forms. So, all I want for Christmas is my blow-up doll. Just please understand and tune into the freedom that I'm talking about. You're making yourself be a certain nutritional thing because somebody else is. Where's your freedom? What about freedom? Oh, free at last, free at last. Thank God Almighty, I'm free at last. I was pretending to be a certain religion because my family would have judged me if they weren't. Now I'm like, ooh, no way, man. This is what I'm about. Whatever it happens to be. People that want you to behave a certain... Just say, man, I'm a born-again hippie. I'm letting go. Free at last. I don't know if you all know this. You've heard of the Kennedys. There's John F. Kennedy. He had a brother who was trying to be a military hero, died in the act. John, who did his thing and was killed. Some great qualities in these people. Robert Kennedy. And then Edward Kennedy, you hear about all these brothers. Most people don't know they had a sister. Does anybody know what happened to the sister? The family felt that she was being a little too loose. You know, she was partying a little bit and sleeping with, wait, that's her brother. No, anyway. That's all of her brothers, but she's a woman and she's not supposed to. You know what they did? They got her a lobotomy. Because she was partying. I mean, she wasn't out of control. To their standards, she was. But even if she was out of control, how would you justify giving a lobotomy to any human being, let alone your sister or daughter? And the certain members of the family, this is what we're doing. And the mom didn't have any say-so. She had to just step back in that. And this is the kind of insanity. And I'm saying, guys, when we let these things go, there's a freedom. Wouldn't you like to have been the one that unlocked the door of that hospital and let her out and said, change your name and go do what you want to do? I mean, wouldn't that feel better than let's help her out with this surgery? It's really kind of a sad thing. And they literally said it ended up a lobotomy that went wrong. That she was worse, far worse than they thought she was going to end up. But all human beings have to find a place where we say, I'm going to make a change in my life. This is usually called reaching bottom. Jesus calls it, in A Course in Miracles, reaching your pain tolerance. So we all have to find that place in ourselves. Is this enough? Or do you need to sink further? You have free will. You can say, no, I'm going to insist on sinking a bit further first. Okay, go for it. Not right or wrong, just it's what you want to do. But the truth of the matter is it will be a more painful route because it'll last longer and you'll be uncomfortable in some forms. Karma or whatever you want to call it. But at the same time, we can choose again and say, I've reached bottom. It's time for me to be born again from this place. And let's all think about that. Let's allow today, just in our imaginations, let's imagine today is enough. And we go upwards from here. So what things, think about it just for a sec, what things would you know immediately to change? If it's time to let go of shackles of people's opinions or whatever it happens to be. People want you to be a certain religion or have a certain thought system, do yoga like them, eat like them, and so on. Whatever they happen to be. Are there things that are not really you at this time in your life and or moving forward that are not organic to you? Take a look at that, and breathe with that. And don't blame them for wanting or wishing that you were that thing. That's their thing. Don't blame them or hate them for it. See it and just ask yourself if it's right for you. And then, okay, I'm going to make some changes. I can see the obvious ones. Day at a time, guys. Just start today with some changes. Do not go overboard. First, your ego does not want you to make any changes from misery to something better, if that's not obvious. But if you are going to make changes, here's what the human self-saboteur does, the ego self. It'll say, don't make change, don't make change. And then you say, that's it, man, I can't take this anymore. I'm going to get into a 12-step program, or I'm going to end this relationship, or I'm going to find myself a healthier diet, whatever it is you're going to change. It's going to then say, you're right. Let's go all the way with it. So that you can't keep that New Year's resolution and crash again. Hence the heavy diets people do, lose a lot of weight and then gain it back and often more. The ego has no intention of us feeling peace because peace means I don't have an ego. So it's got to instigate something. So take a moment to think about that. Don't go overboard to things you can't do. And then just decide on a new version of here's your floor and here's your ceiling. If you go out and lose, let's say you want to lose 20 pounds and you lose 13, make that 10 mark the new floor. Don't go below that. Don't allow yourself to get past that worst scenario for you. Every bit you come up, make a new floor that you can't drop below. Does that make sense? Have a ceiling, meaning I'm heading for this, but if you make it too far, you won't reach it and you'll come crashing down again. So measurable doses. Measurable, not tiny, unless that's all you can handle. Measurable doses. It's so allowing, but it also is in the moment. When you hear me say, one day at a time, it's actually synonymous with living in the moment. Not so much that you barely even talk, because you're just so in the moment. I'm not talking about lofty like that. I'm talking about live every day like you're going to be here forever, and every day like it's your last day. Do both. Like you're going to be here forever, meaning I need to consider having a conscience and thinking the big picture. I'm going to be here forever, so I'm going to be dealing with whatever I do. So have a good conscientiousness to that. Yet, act as though it's your last day, which means simultaneously have excitement and enthusiasm. Does that make sense? That's a concept of mastery that not a lot of people understand. But, you know, if you get to this place of realizing, I'm going to live in the moment, I'm going to have realistic goals. Do you know what you're being? It's called loving and patient. So, let's all consider that as we're coming to a close. I'm going to be loving and patient to the elder in me and the child in me. The old elder, the new child, both have to be treated with grace. I don't want to do anything to the elder that I wouldn't want to do, you know, for myself, my healthy self. Nothing to that child. Nothing to myself that I wouldn't do for that child. Let's treat ourselves with grace, with love, with patience, living a day at a time. This is exactly what Christ or the Divine Mother wants for us. I mean, these beings, it's hard. We say things like, well, God loves us or whatever. It's really hard to understand how much and how perfectly God actually loves us. God is bewildered, even saddened in a certain metaphoric sense, when we don't treat ourselves with love. Because it so loves us that it wouldn't want to see us doing things that harm ourselves. And I don't just mean harming ourselves because we do something mundane, physical. I'm talking about behind the things we do is self-loathing. That's the painful stuff. It's not just that you drink, it's what's behind the drinking. It's not just that you hate somebody, it's what's behind it. Your unhealed hurt. Let's heal that, because God doesn't want you to have the hurt. You could say God doesn't want us to hate. No, hate is a reaction to hurt. God doesn't want you hurting. If you say God doesn't want you hating, then it's another behavioral thing. Don't hate. But instead, look at the compassion that kicks in when you say, but the hate's coming from hurt. Look at immediately, I'm hurt. Why, honey? Talk to yourself like that. Sweetheart, what's wrong? What's going on? Slow the pace. You know, be compassionate. What's going on? This is what Jesus meant. Consider the lilies of the field. Or, paraphrasing another statement, do you have today so perfected that you have time to worry about tomorrow? I mean, I'm paraphrasing, but that's kind of another thing he said. Jesus, tell us about tomorrow. Oh, really? Because today's going so well. Stay with today, a day at a time. I might slip if I'm an addict and I'm working on my addiction, but I might slip. But today, just do your best to steer center. Then what if you do slip? Back to center. Because we talked about this a couple weeks ago. In the moment is a holy choice. My power is asserted and exerted in that moment when I make a choice. What would I like to have for myself, really? How do I know? What would you like for a child? And those are the kind of things you want to bring in. Consider the lilies of the field. Jesus was being so Taoist in that moment. What are you thinking? What are you worrying about? His saying, another one, about being in the moment. Who of you by worrying can add a single day to your life? It's a brilliant statement. Very Taoist. How can worry add a single day to your life? I know what I'll do. So that I don't die, I'm going to go to the gym every day. So people go out and they work, and studies were done on this. They go out and they work out. And they spend, let's say, for the next 20 years of their life, they're working out. Okay? They're working out an hour a day for the next 20 years so that they can prolong their life. But studies seem to say that the amount of time you may add to your life according to medical science would be the same number of hours you spent in the gym. So, if you liked working out, you did extend your life. If you didn't like it, it's called prolonging. Think about it. It's kind of a wash. So, what are you doing and why? Each day, like the lilies of the field. The lilies aren't going, oh man, I wish I was a rose. They're just like, This is what's happening today. Lilies never say, just one more day of blooming. It's like, oh, cool, fall. The flowers, the trees, oh, cool. This is what we're doing. Winter, when we're like, oh, the winter of my life. People have left me. That's the dark night, so to speak, for us. And people bemoan it. Oh, my gosh. And there's less people in my life, and there's somebody left, and so on. Nature's like, excellent. All the energy that was out here in relationships is going to go down here into the roots. We're going inside to do some work on ourselves so we can have a better springtime. Only humans are messed up. No plants, flowers, animals are messed up. Humans. And I mean that playfully, but they're messed up because they actually try to think out of the Zen zone Taoist self. We try to do something that's incongruent with love. Wishing we were something else, doing something else. Just learn to completely be. So, in closing, remember this. Being in the moment, one day at a time, and being in the moment needs to be applied in relationships. How? Grow your relationships a day at a time. Don't meet people saying, hi, nice to meet you, my name is, and in the subconscious going, I wonder if they're available. Is it Mr. Right? No, it isn't. It won't be the one that will never die. So you can't project that stuff. Where on the face level, it's, hi, nice to meet you. And in the back of the head, there's these tentacles that are coming out, popping into their back and downloading information. Are you faithful? No? Good, because that's just like my other, and because I need to repeat my patterns. Cut the tentacles, cut all the cords. Get to know who you are and introduce your real self. And see if that honesty is okay with them. If they would need you to tell them things that aren't you, probably not the right person. So how do we live in the moment in relationships? It's called growing relationships. How do we live being in the moment on a day-to-day basis? Oh my gosh, get guidance. Start your day. God be with me and guide me. What would you have me do and not do? End the day. Thank you for the guidance. Pray as often. I don't mean it has to be 24/7 literal verbal mantras, but I'm saying do your best to live in the moment. Ask for guidance. Even with finances, ask for financial guidance in all investments of any kind, jobs you take or whatever. Ask how you should respond to various events in your life. Ask what would you have me do in this particular situation? So living in the moment doesn't mean being all detached. It means really plugging in and getting guidance on how to be. Not how to not be, how to be. So if I'm connected, I'm going to grow relationships. I'm going to feel connected every day. I'm going to ask for guidance in all the decisions I make, including financials. And even if I make mistakes, being in the moment and one day at a time means I'm going to bounce back after I make errors. Is that all making sense? All right. Let's go into a few minutes meditation with this. Just a few minutes of meditation, and then we'll do our collection and our closing song. Set aside the thoughts and stuff of the world. Be aware for a moment of your human self, your human physical self that appears to be a body, appears to be a certain color, size, or whatever. Certain jobs, family labels, you're with your children or without, and whatever the case may be. Just really kind of get an honest assessment of yourself for a moment. Who do you appear to be or seem to be? Don't dress it up, just as it seems to be. This is This is how I seem to be. And then, but what if? And allow your imagination to just peel off the layers. You can just gradually phase out your image of yourself, or you can peel layer by layer. Clothes, skin, tissue, bones, down to energy, light. Or just phase from one to the other. But gradually come to see yourself as being this really beautiful, radiant light. And then, somewhat spontaneously, imagine an image of an old you appears, which could be 30, it could be 90, it could be 150, whatever it happens to be. This is the you that has gone through relationships and children and loss of jobs, and all of that has to a degree worn on our human self. The one that's tired, the one that's gone through illness, the one that has lost loved ones, gone to war. And then see that image of yourself. What do you believe you see? Do they look tired, sad, just old, or whatever it happens to be? And then hear yourself saying this to yourself. I can see you. And I know you represent all of my collective past. Moments of tired and frustrated and so on. I see that. And I want to apologize to you because what I've done is I've created an image of you now that's locked into my mind. And when I have learned to see the pattern of you as older, tired, etc., it has affected my life. Beyond my years, it has affected my life. So I need to let go of my image of you as alone or tired or whatever it is. It doesn't mean I'm abandoning you. I'm letting go of my projections on you because you didn't deserve them. Look at the aged version of yourself and watch all the tiredness and look slowly fall away, melt away, so that the being can become light. And remaining is just beautiful sparkles of light. Let's breathe those sparkles of light into our heart center. No longer a separate projection, but we integrate it as a part of ourselves. And then, I can feel you. I can feel you that was out there before. I can feel you. You're in my heart and soul. It's great to connect with you at this healthy level where I'm not projecting age or difficulty. I can see you, man, and it's good to feel you at this level where we're healthy. Now, share with me, you're saying to yourself, this aged part that became light that's now in your heart, share with me, download into my mind, what have you learned that can be helpful for me today? What have you learned from life that can be helpful? Not fears. What have you learned? What lessons have you learned that can be helpful to me and the child that I'm giving birth to? And let that download for a moment. Nice. Thank that part, that senior, that master that learned. Integrate that into yourself. Breathe it in and give thanks for the wisdom. Thank it for the vulnerability to share with us the lessons learned. Vow to your current self that you'll do your best to learn the easy way so that the lessons given by the elder are not in vain. I promise you, I will learn an easier route than you did over the years. And then, put at least one hand on your heart and imagine today we're birthing the baby, the New Year baby. The baby is being gestated and so forth within our heart and soul. A new me is coming forward. Before it comes forth, and when it does, it will bring with it all the gifts that often come when we give birth to babies. People send gifts. So all the gifts that will come, such as a healthier lifestyle, less addictions. What kinds of things would you wish upon the child? Take a moment, let it come to you. Let it be organic. Don't do what other people think you should be doing. Your new baby's coming forward tomorrow, a new you today, and starting in the life tomorrow, that new self. What would you choose to have in its life? What would you gift it? The wise men brought Jesus gifts. What would you gift to the baby? Could be safety, self-worth, happiness, connection with God. Don't go so far overboard that you refuse to do any of it, like New Year's resolutions that you don't keep. Keep it to enough things that you know you can pull it off. Bless you. And simply imagine yourself pulling it off. See yourself doing it. See yourself living in accordance with what you just blessed for the child. It's nowhere near as challenging as we think if we find it of value. If we truly understand the value of healthier living, it's easier to pull off. If we don't understand the value of healthier living, it means we have not yet reached our pain threshold yet. We have not yet hit bottom. If that's what you want to do, then you can do that. In this moment, we're giving thanks for this experience. We're giving thanks to our old wisdom, to our new life. We're giving thanks that in this moment, we, the one here, is choosing to do the proper methods, the proper choices to create a new life. And we give thanks in advance that we'll see the effects, perhaps immediately. And so it is. Take a moment to recenter to the room. There's a DVD set in case you're interested. People ask me to mention it so they know what to look for. It's called Rebuilding a New Life. It's apropos to today's topics. Change and acceptance, innocence, creating our day, good days and bad days. It covers a lot of the topics we did today, okay?